just welcome to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So before we get started today, we have some folks with us that haven't been with us before. So if we don't mind, would you introduce yourself?
Hello everybody, my name is I.S.L.A.M. I'm 25 and I don't know what else to say.
Thank you, Ahmed. We're very happy to have you today. And let's see here, do we have anybody else who hasn't been with us before? So welcome. I would like to ask you to continue to make dua for Casey Kiwan. We visited him yesterday, stage 4 lung cancer. Seems to be in good spirits, and he's going to be having surgery. So please remember he and his family. And does anybody else have anything that you'd like to ask us to make dua for? Very good. I don't think there are any announcements either, right? No announcements?
There will be a shortly, inshallah.
Yes, our coordinator of the kitchen had to pick up Kareem today. He arrived back from being with his father, so that's why things were different in the kitchen this morning. So, alhamdulillah. Today we're going to be talking, and you might remember in the beginning of this course on Asma wa Sifat, the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that certain names come sort of in pairs. And they are compared and contrasted. Sometimes they have a tremendous polarity in which we are able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a multifaceted way, so to speak. So today we'll be covering Al-Mateen, the steadfast one, and Al-Qawiyy, the strong one. And as you can see here, the images of that. So first I'll do the khutbah al-hajj and we'll get started, inshallah. إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ومن يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah. We praise Him. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil in our soul and from our sinful deeds. Those who are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no misguidance. Those who are not guided by Allah, there is no guidance for them. I bear witness that there is no deity, there is no God worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. O you who believe, revere Allah as He should be revered, and die not except as Muslims. Amma ba'd. I wanted to, as you know, I'm using 3 classical books to teach this class, and I always mention them. They're shown on the slides. But today, this is a more recent book, which I believe has just gone to the publishers. I was given a copy of this book before it went to the publishers because I so love to know Allah. And the way that I feel that I really got to know Allah is through the Asma wa Sifat of Allah. So if we have time today, we will, after the discussion, we will have a piece of poetry. There is beautiful poetry about each of the names of Allah in this book. And if you'd like to look at it afterwards, I believe it is probably available. You got it already?
No, I'm saying, and we'll take a picture of it after.
Okay, yes. Because I think it's actually available publicly now. Welcome. All right. So welcome again, everybody. So we'll start out looking at the definitions of Al-Mateen, the steadfast, the firm, the steadfast, the ever constant. Now, remember that the purpose of this class is so that we can get to know Allah, and that we will know Allah according to what Allah has said about Himself. Because shirk, one of the methods of shirk is to say anything about Allah that Allah has not said about Allah. So we need to know what Allah has said about Allah and what the attributes are of Allah so that we can try to emulate them in our lives and be elevated, inshallah, spiritually. The one who is most steadfast and solid, and so we sometimes ask ourselves, how solid am I in my iman? And we know that iman fluctuates as much as 40 times in a day. We wake up in the morning. Some mornings we feel like I'm on top of the world. Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Sometimes we wake up in the morning and it's like, oh no, I don't want to face the day. So Perhaps in this you will examine how solid are you in your iman, how solid are you in your practices, how solid are you in your knowledge. So these are some questions that we can be asking ourselves. The one whose strength produces certitude. How certain are you in your Islam? How certain are you in your faith? How certain are you in your practice? Okay. The one who is loyal, firm, and constant. The one whose nature is the utmost firmness and steadfastness. And there is actually an authentic hadith where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that he likes things done consistently. So the scholars will say that if you're going to say, begin a habit and you're going to pray Salatul Tahajjud, for example, that it's better for you to be consistent in it than to do it now and then. So I'm going to do it once a week and I'm going to stick to that and I'm actually going to do it. Instead of just saying I'm going to do this and then maybe do it once or twice a year. So we want to try to develop consistency in whatever we're practicing and constancy. The one whose nature is the utmost firmness and steadfastness. The one who can easily overcome anything through supreme firmness and strength of determination. And that's another great attribute. What is our strength of determination? Are we determined to serve Allah? Are we determined to increase our faith? Are we determined to satisfy our nafs? Or are we determined to connect to our ruh and to evolve in terms of our soul? From the root mim, ta, and nun, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to be strong, stout, firm, hard, to be solid, robust, to be steadfast, certain, sure, to possess any quality in a strong degree, the hard outer or apparent part of something, and elevated and hard ground. This name is used in the Holy Quran in Surah 51-58. And here's the verse. Indeed, Allah alone is the supreme provider who giveth livelihood, all sustenance, Lord of all power, ever mighty, the eternally invincible. And so let's look at Al-Qawiyy, and hopefully you'll be able to join this. Typically we're only dealing with one name, but inshallah you'll be able to swing back and forth between the two names as we'll be doing in this presentation. The supremely strong, the inexhaustible strength. The one whose strength is supreme, the one who possesses unlimited strength and endurance. And I think this is something we all want to develop within our faith, that we can endure. That when the calamities come, the bala, the test, the fitna, when it comes, that we can endure. That we will have developed ourselves in such a way that we have that endurance, like a good soccer player or like a good sprint runner. You just don't run out. Your faith remains strong, inshallah. The one whose vigor and strength prevail over all of creation. The one who is beyond all weakness. The one whose strength is inexhaustible. From the root qaf, waw, ya, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to be strong, vigorous, potent, to be robust, hardy, sturdy, to have sufficient strength or power, and to prevail over. This is also used in the Holy Quran in Surah 42, verse 19. Allah is gracious unto Allah's servants. Allah provides abundant sustenance for whom Allah wills, and Allah is the all-powerful, strong, the Almighty. So here we go. We'll begin by looking at Al-Mateen and the reflections from the great names of Allah by Al-Said Rashad Al-Musawi. And sometimes I forget to mention this, but I always like to give credit to the scholars that have written great classic works. And so today I wanted to make sure I mention these names again. So the root word matana means solidness, with expansion and extension. It may be applied to a solid rock or to a distance traveled. So I think this is very apropos to looking at our spiritual journey, our Sirat al-Mustaqim. How expansive has our journey been? Has our journey been monotonous? Has it been mediocre? Or has it been an expansive journey that covered the whole globe spiritually? Has it been solid, a solid journey, or if sometimes I've been on the boat, on the plane, and the door was closed, and sometimes I was parachuting out of the plane? Scholars have said that it may be applied literally or metaphorically. Al-Mateen is Al-Qawiyy, the strong one, who can do whatever Allah pleases, who does not need an army to enforce authority, nor any help, nor any supporter, nor any assistant. And of course, when we look at ourselves and we recognize sometimes how weak we are, we struggle, we know that we turn to the strong one because we are so weak, the strong one being Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyone who can absorb this will not rest his or her hopes on anyone besides Allah. Al-Mateen is the one whose might is perfect and in the utmost limit of perfection. Nothing can stand in Allah's way in the heavens or on earth. It is Allah who effects Allah's will, whose might is very, very eternal. Allah effects everything, yet nothing can affect Allah. So we are so dependent upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is so necessary that we trust, that we have tawakkul, that we tie our camel by doing all the things we know, and then we trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we may be on that journey, something happens, a bala comes, our immediate desire should be, Ya Allah, make this bala a paradisial witness for me. Make it something that will testify for me in the heavens. Make it something that will mention my name in higher places, the places where the angels are, and the great prophets of God. If strength indicates the perfection of a complete power, matana indicates the perfection of might. And of course, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the perfection of might. The greatest wrestler, the greatest fighter may have a might, but he will be knocked out of the ring. His might fluctuates. In Surah Al-Araf, Surah 7, verse 183, and even though I grant them respite, I give them the reins, I let them control things here and there, my plan and scheme is surely effective, flawless, strong, and unfailing. So even though we vacillate, because sometimes we are obedient, and sometimes we're not, and when we're not, that means the nafs have taken over, and now I am in control, and I am doing what I want to do. And when I do that, the Mighty One is there waiting for me to get back on the right path. Alhamdulillah. Surely effective, flawless, strong, and unfailing. And the beauty of this is knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never fails us. If we do what the conditions that are given to us of various acts of worship, if we do them with the right conditions, Allah never fails us. And nothing in the life of a Muslim is bad. We judge it as bad, but in fact it has come to us to teach us something and to actually make us be more mighty. Every time we overcome something in our path, then we should become more mighty, more strong, more enduring. So I know we have two avid basketball players in the room, and in order to build up endurance, they ran and they worked out really, really hard so that they would have the endurance. Am I right, you guys? Because I should never talk about sports, right? Yes, because I will usually be absolutely the opposite of mighty when it comes to talking about or performing in sports. So from Reflections from Allah, an explanation of the divine names and attributes by Ahmed ibn Ajiba al-Hassani, it is said that Al-Qawiyy means the all-powerful. It is said that Al-Qawiyy is the one that never experiences weakness, is neither Allah's entity, attributes, or act. So imagine aspiring spiritually to be at a place where we don't experience weakness. And if we look at the stages of development of the soul, at the nafs mutma'ina, a soul that is at rest, it does not experience weakness. It only experiences a centered, peaceful state, had, because it is doing what it has been taught to do. The intellect of the heart is sound. and therefore it doesn't experience weakness. Some scholars have said that the name Al-Qawiyy comes from quwwa, strength, which is an intermediate between the interstate known as might, that should be interstate, known as might, hal, and the outer state of statement, all. Because the first thing that occurs inwardly within one who does an action is called hal, followed by what is perceived on the limbs, which is called quwwa. The manifestation of an act in the form of strength and firm grasp is called power, qudra. And for that reason, the phrase, there is no might or power save Allah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, refers all matters and actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. I know this is a lot to think about, but when we talk about our desires, our mights, our wills, we refer to this as his or her how sometimes. Hawa. Right? Okay. And then when we talk about what is carried out, it is something else. So you might want to study these terms, embark upon the deeper meaning of these terms, because I believe that it will help you to grow, inshallah, in the area of tasawwuf, purification of the soul, inshallah. Sheikh Ahmed Zuruk said, from these words it becomes clear that strength, quwwa, is something more than power, qudra. The likes of this is found within creation, so as to approximate its understanding, but in any case, our Lord is far exalted and transcended beyond the attributes of bodies, such as possessing limbs, nerves, and spatial inwardness. And I'll bring this in Allah's description. One who knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Qawiyy will seek the Divine's might and strength in all matters. So one of the dua that we should always be making is, Ya Allah, give me courage, give me strength. Give me the strength to do that which is right. Give me the courage to do that which is right. Give me the strength to get up from this sofa and pray instead of watch the NFL game, because that will be most conducive to my soul. One connects with this name by seeking the succor of Allah's strength and by realizing one's own weakness, as is said in the aphorisms. And of course, the word succor is very dear and near to me because I grew up on a farm as a kid. And one of the ugliest, most horrible jobs that you can have, there are no games on the farm, believe me. Jobs on the farm is to sucker tobacco. So when it's growing, it has this beautiful white flower at the top, and that flower zaps it of all that which you want in the tobacco plant. So you break that flower off so that the tobacco grows. And that flower has this sticky substance that when it gets on the hairs of your arms and you try to get it off, it pulls the hair out. So it's like a wax job while you're working. So most of us in the heat of July or August will wear long sleeve shirts so that we don't get that sticky stuff on our body, because it's so hard to get off. So this word succor is how we make ourselves grow, how we are nurtured to become strong and to have endurance, actually. One connects with this name by seeking the succor of Allah's strength and the realizing one's own weakness. And then we know that to know yourself is to know Allah. We don't search for our weaknesses so that we can beat ourselves up. We search for our weaknesses so that we can work on them. And we can make them strong. And we can put them in the boot camp that will give our weakness the endurance to overcome. Inshallah. And by the way, when I spoke a while ago watching NFL, I didn't mean that in a condemning way. Or a judgmental way. Realize your attribute and Allah will support you with Allah's attribute. Realize your weakness and Allah will support you in Allah's strength. Realize your attribute and Allah will support you with Allah's. Realize your lowliness and Allah will help you with Allah's sublimity. Realize your importance and Allah will help you with Allah's power. Realize your weakness and Allah will help you with Allah's might and force. And so often I hear Muslims beating themselves up. Oh, I'm so this and I'm so bad. And I will always ask them, is that what Allah said about you? Allah said you were created in the best of molds, among the best people evolved. That He actually chose you, your own special soul from the heavens, and how unique you are. And so here when we look at this, I think this is very powerful. I would recommend, whether you're an Android lover or an iPhone lover, an Apple person, that you take a picture of this and look at this when you are struggling. Because this is how we should know that we are important. If Allah chose us, then that means we are important. If Allah called us to this faith, we are important. If we are here today, you are important to me. And you are important to the community at large. I'm sure that everyone that's here has been touched by someone else that was here today. And if you haven't, let me know and I'll make sure you're touched in the most beautiful manner, in the purest of manners. But I'm sure that typically this is what we're told. We walk away and we feel that our batteries have been charged. We walk away feeling loved for the sake of Allah. So I think this is something that we really need to look at, that if you are thinking lowly and you then know that Allah is the opposite and you want to adopt that characteristic and that attribute, then pray for it. Ask Allah for it. Say, Ya Allah, I know that thinking of myself in a lowly way does not please you because it's not of your characteristics. And I would not want to have any characteristic within myself that is not of the messenger of Allah or of Allah. The manifestation of this, seeking Allah's strength by realizing your weakness, is that you drop selfish calculation, forsake pretentious claims. And by the way, there is an authentic hadith that says, in the latter days, people will worship. They will revere their opinions. And so if you notice years ago, and you can sort of study this, people could have an opposite opinion and someone would say, well, I respectfully disagree with you. Today, people really struggle to say, oh, well, maybe I was wrong. And people really, really struggle. So nowadays, people actually get angry. If you don't agree with them, people get angry because their opinions have become so important to them. And this actually, I deem by Allah, is a form of shirk, because we actually revere our opinions beyond the opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is obviously very dangerous. So be careful and be aware that, that you want to forsake pretentious claims. And see Allah's divine favor in everything and no longer fear creation or experience anxiety over provisions. Nay, you abandon all such concerns entirely. If you really have this strength of faith, this strength of endurance in your practice, then you will always see Allah as the merciful, as the compassionate, as the strong one, and that the fact that this is the way Allah is, then I too can adopt this, and that would please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One cultivates this name in their character by being strong for the sake of Allah and not fearing the blame or the blamer. Oh, thank you. Please do something if I don't advance the slide. So today there's a huge emphasis on the blame and the blamer, particularly in the recent or current political scene. There is a lot of people are defriended when they don't agree with certain political arguments, instead of coming up with facts of this is what is. And it's interesting, as many of you know, I do about 200 speeches a year. And recently I was speaking at the history department at UCF. And I was actually sort of astounded because this came to light in that I gave some factual statistics from highly respected researchers. And the students argued with me. So I said to them, you know, this is university. If you're going to argue, then bring me your proofs. I didn't use the word dalil, but that's what came to me. Bring me your evidence. At this level of education, you can't just argue because it's your opinion. And then I think we had this conversation on the way home about the hadith, and in the latter days, people will actually worship their opinions. And so you see new religions that are started every day based on people's opinions. So it's pretty dangerous. One realizes this name when one completely frees themselves from personal claims to might and strength. Nay, when one frees themselves from claims of being alongside the strong and firm, with the law is enabling grace. So we know that la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, when I am strong, it is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When I am having good endurance spiritually, it is my effort, but it is still by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Verily indeed Allah alone is the supreme provider who giveth livelihood and sustenance, Lord of all power, the possessor of strength, the firm, the ever mighty, the eternally invincible. The back is called matin because it is the firmest and strongest part of most animals. So some of us, I don't know if it's very popular, I don't hear it a lot. I used to hear it a lot. He or she needs to get some backbone. Yeah. And what are they saying? They need to firm up. They need to be strong. Though this meaning cannot be used with respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, but I think it's something that certainly helps us relate. We can all relate to backs, particularly if you've had a herniated disc or a slipped disc or one of those things that you'll often think about your back, right? For Allah it means power, namely the power to create something whose existence is rationally possible. Sheikh Ahmed Zurq said, Al-Mateen is the one who possesses perfect power, insomuch that it cannot be opposed or matched or rivaled by any other. Allah's strength does not admit weakness, nor can Allah's command be thwarted. Verily Allah is the overpower, Al-Ghalib, who is never overcome or hindered, and Allah's power stands in neither material nor cause. One who knows Allah's strength and firmness will never fear anything, and will never put his or her aspirations in anything besides it. He or she will depend on Allah and rely upon Allah alone. So many times we will put our faith in someone who appears to have power, someone who perhaps has money, someone who has the capacity to fire us, someone who has the capacity to punish us. But if we can be really strong, then we will stand up for justice, even if it be against ourselves, or our kinfolks, or the rich or the poor, for God is able to look after both of them. One connects with His name by seeking firmness in the religion and strength in certitude, beseeching Allah, O firm one, make my religion firm and make my certitude steady and strong. Isn't this what we all want? We want that when we are tempted, we have the certitude to say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. We have the certitude. We want that. We want that certainty. That when we see that beautiful woman or man, we say, Ya Allah, make paradise more beautiful than that person. And this, of course, is that kind of strength. Because the nature of mankind and womankind is sometimes that we are weak, that our desires are so much stronger than our iman. And so with this focus, we want to pray and make efforts that our iman overtakes our desires, inshallah. One cultivates this name in their character by being firm in their religious practice, by being strong in their certitude, firm in knowledge and gnosis. And let me talk about gnosis for a minute. I always had a love relationship with this word. And the way that I understand spiritual gnosis is that you know that you know that you know. It means that you have an experiential knowledge of your knowledge. So it's one thing for me to say that Allah will heal me, but when Allah has healed me, I have a whole different understanding of that word. So we all should strive for gnosis, that we actually experience the things of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we have an experiential experience in our Sirat al-Mustaqim. That it's not just one that is sort of black and white, this is just what it says and this is what I do, but one that is you have conviction in. And what do we know about the Shahada? That it is a Shahada at first. It is a motto, if you can say that. It is words. But as you practice that and implement the essence of that in your life, it becomes the kalima. It becomes something you are convicted of. That you will live and die defending that. When one embraces Islam, the hadith says that it enters your head. And that as you begin to prostrate on the floor, go prostrate, and as you begin to worship Allah, then your heart changes. And those words become something that you're absolutely convicted of, that you have certainty about, certitude about. And we'll do some reflections here from the 99 Names of God by Daniel Thomas Dyer. Al-Qawiyy means the possessor of all strength. Allah's strength and endurance is unlimited. It can carry us on the straight path to well-being and happiness. Al-Mateen means the steadfast. To be steadfast means to be firm, steady, and well-balanced. And I think this is so important. Because what happens if you adopt a position of rigidity? You will burn out. And I've seen this. I've seen people come into Islam, embrace the religion, and I was one of them, except, alhamdulillah, by Allah's might, I endured. But I was told, do not try to pray your sunnahs and your fard when I became a Muslim. They gave me a list, 2 sunnahs for Fajr, 2 fard, 4 for Dhuhr, and then the 4 fard, and then the 2 sunnah. And they gave me all of this, and of course I tried to do it all. But I have seen other people who tried to do it all and they burnt out because they were not well balanced. If you really know yourself, it's important because Allah said to know yourself is to know Allah. Then you know how much you can push yourself. You know how much of a boot camp you can enter into. Some people can really handle boot camps. They love it. They thrive on it. And some people would not go to a boot camp if their life depended upon it, because they just can't handle that kind of rigidity. Know yourself and work hard in your spiritual walk and this spiritual path to find a balance. I have something called the heart wheel that I often give to folks that are working with me, and particularly focusing on their heart, and I mean the spiritual heart. And it has a circle with 10 lines in it. It's called the heart wheel. And then it'll have prayer, dhikr, fasting, different attributes that you want to adopt, and you grade yourself. You color it in, where you think you are, where you'd like to be, and what it would take to get there. And I think this is a great approach because you actually get to see results, measurable results, and then you're not just jumping from a number 3 and expecting to be a number 10 at all levels of worship. And here are some signs of Al-Qawiyy and Al-Mateen. In dhikr circles where the names of Allah are chanted, you will often hear a drum. The drum can be a good sign of both Al-Qawiyy and Al-Mateen. The drum's boom, boom, boom has a throbbing strength that adds a great deal of power to the dhikr. It also has a steady, unbreakable beat that helps people to keep going and keep in time with each other. Now this is obviously some controversial information I have on the board, but it is a practice among Muslims to do dhikr and to have the duffs, which are, by the way, the only unarguable instrument in Islam that no scholar, no one will say the duffs, the drum is haram. This is one thing we all have agreement upon. So the duffs, the drum, is a very powerful instrument. And often if you listen to the beats of drums and you do dhikr yourself, and I have done this, it's very powerful because that beating of that drum seems to connect with my heartbeat, and it's just very powerful. So, there's a reason that the duff is halal. The drum might also remind us of our own hearts. Our physical hearts have great strength, for they pump blood around our bodies with a steady beat. And is it 8 pints of blood that we are circulating like every minute or something? 8 pints? I think so. Just imagine if I were to ask you to carry 8 pints for 24 hours. Just carry 8 pints around with you. So you can imagine taking an 8-pack of maybe your favorite soda, and I'd just like you to carry that for 24 hours. And imagine that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pushing that around in your body over and over and over and over again, keeping you alive and well with no tiredness. Muhammad ﷺ said, the strong man is not the one who wrestles others, rather, the strong man is the one who controls himself when he is angry. So a lot of people will say, oh, he's a real man. He is 6'5". He wears a 44 long suit jacket, and they will do all of this kind of stuff. And they say this is the mark of a man. Oh, he's such a man. He pick up 200 pounds of fertilizer and carry it on his shoulder. My grandfather could do that. 200 here and 200 here. But that's not the mark of a man. If we look at the messenger of God, we see all these beautiful qualities of men. Gentleness, kindness, a shepherd, an imam. Nothing that the world chooses to see men as. Ali was a strong man, may Allah be pleased with him, and a great warrior. However, he only ever fought for justice and truth and to defend the oppressed. He never fought out of hatred and anger, and never for personal gain. Once when he was fighting to defend the Muslim community, he got the better of an opponent who spat in his face. Rather than striking him a death blow, he put his sword down. His opponent was amazed and asked him, why did you spare me? And this is such a beautiful story. He explained how he felt a trace of anger and hatred being spat at, and he could never allow himself to fight with such feelings. His opponent was in awe and became a Muslim. This requires might. This requires strength. But this is the mark of a man. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said it very beautifully. He said the mark of actually a mature person, not only a man, is that he controls what is between his jaws and what is between his thighs, or her thighs. And if we think about it, this is one of the biggest problems we have in the world today. People can't control this, and they can't control the downstairs either. So what we'll do before we get into the reflections today is I thought I would read a beautiful poem to you. And then we will enjoy the reflections. Al-Mateen the one who is ever steadfast, everlastingly strong. Ya Mateen, Ya Badi, your joy is coming to the mountainside, Ya Mateen, with every sunrise. The breeze of dawn kisses the shores of your hills, and every day they display your light, and generously shadows in the folds of their skin where rivers run and waterfalls tumble with your grace. Anchoring our world, they hold firm in your power, reaching to heaven with their pyramidical peaks, peeking through the veils of clouds to know you in intimate sky chambers, as above, so below. Their feet too keep your presence as deep veins connect the core of your love's traversal, O Badi. Most skillful creator, nightingales burst into song, perched upon the trees that rise so strongly into the fullness of your air. With iron you fortify us and strengthen our resolve to see you everywhere. With gold you adorn us, with your light you magnify us, as we stand with the mountains in the glory of your dawn, opening our arms for your embrace. Ya Wasi, Ya Aziz, Ya Wadud, Ya Salam. So we will move on to the discussion period, and I will cut the mic off now. I've actually unplugged myself.